Hello, everyone, and good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the market color session, London session this morning, the 29th, 5th of 2025, right? 29 May 2025. Good morning. How are we doing? Hope we are good. Good morning. Good morning. Has been our trading day. Good morning, Ayuba, Easy, Lewis, Oyasori Olua, Toby, and Gabriel. How are you doing? Hope you're good. Hope you're fine. Hope your trading week has been going very well. A precious morning to you too, Petra. Hope you're all good. All right, morning, morning, morning. So this morning we'll be looking quickly at the US market. By the US market, I mean the US 30, NAS 100, and also S&P 500. Quickly seeing what has happened in those markets. Something really interesting has happened from Tuesday. I wasn't able to start Tuesday London session, but I came on board by the New York session. That's 2 in the afternoon, and then we check some things together. Ever since that time, we've seen a lot of market play, and it's quite interesting. And this morning also we'll be looking at what the market is doing, and from there we can, make progress as to what that market is doing. All right, quickly, I'll be sharing my screen, and then we'll be looking at the markets all together. Beautiful. So we're on our charts this morning, and as we can see very clearly that we are still very much bullish, right? We're still very much bullish on our chart, and to the upside, we can see that although what we had in terms of retracement for it to happen has not yet happened, right? It's still stalling, which is absolutely fine. It takes sometimes for market to move sometimes in terms of retracement. We've not seen that clearly. And also fundamental is now suggestive of the fact that we might not see that retracement into 50%, right? A news came out, and that was it yesterday or two days ago, that made US 30 jump to the upside. Federal court now, they denied Trump, was it right now? They denied him to pass that tariff plan he wanted to pass, right? And then we saw that all the market jumped up. US 30, US 100, everything, went up because of what? The tariff was denied by President Trump. All right, so if that is the case, that means we should expect that we should see this market pumping to the upside instead of downside, right? Because it makes logical sense. If they stop tariff, companies are excited, and then their stock price tends to just rally to the upside. All right, let's look at the market on lower time frame basis and then see what is happening. We can see that, of course, this was the old jump that happened yesterday, and we're really excited. And let's look at this market, especially on US 30, for a buy that happened, and it was quite interesting. Our classic box pattern, right? On Tuesday, we didn't take any trade because I said on that New York session that the market actually on Tuesday was not pointing to anywhere. We didn't have any clear place to look at, right? By the time we check it on Tuesday, there was no clear-cut path to watch out for. And for that reason, we just had to just, leave everything and then wait till we see a clear-cut price action, right? But then by Wednesday, something started happening. Tuesday has already given us the price action, right? Because at the end of Tuesday, actually, right? Because now we see that there was a clear sweep of structure here, right? Price swept this low, and then what happened next after the sweep of structure? The next thing is a classic break to the upside, right? Price broke this. We saw a sweep here, and then eventually saw that break to this upside, right? Leaving us with a not fair value gap now. We're leaving us with an order block, right? And then our first take profits, of course, where is it? Not to be very, very, unrealistic with our take profits. This will be our first take profit. This was our first take profit, actually. And then a more refined entry was this here, right? 1:2, just a stretch above, right? Because honestly speaking, some people want to say their SL is here, but you can never know. You would never know, right? So for us, we always put our SL just, below here so that everything can cover properly. And then it gives us a good risk to reward. Went as high as 1:3, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, did 1:3, but then 1:2, most likely because of what? Because truthfully, this other block was looking very, very scary, right? And so they didn't know what will happen. But then price pierced through the other block and then turned into a breaker block for it to continue pushing to the upside. So this was like a classic box pattern, right, which made the market to rally, and it was quite significant. Now, one question we'll be saying is how this happened when the market has overbought, right? In sense of structure, or you are buying from a premium zone, right? That is correct. However, the fact still remains that this market is driven heavily by fundamental, right? And a market that is so driven by fundamental, what you want to do is to stick with what fundamental is saying first before you now begin to say, okay, is structure bullish or bearish or sideways, right? If fundamental is pointing to the fact that we are bullish, right? President Trump couldn't execute his tariff, plans, and then the market is very excited. You shouldn't be looking for a sell. You shouldn't expect that price is still going to retrace to that level. No, it's automatically a pointer to the fact that the market is bullish, right? And people are excited, and then you should start looking for buys to the upside. And interestingly, also on US 30, we only had this setup on US 30 for the rest of the pair, which we're going to also eventually look into. We didn't have this setup, right? And that's why I used to say on this call that one of the best things you can do on your MT4 or MT5 is to align this chart side by side, US 30, US 100, and also S&P 500, so that at the end of the day, you're able to see which one is moving, which one is not moving, which one has the liquidity sweep been grabbed, and then with that, you can now eventually, take that trade instead of the other one, right? And usually when one liquidity sweep, when one of the pairs have grabbed liquidity like this, you tend to not sit on the remaining two, or two might actually, it might actually happen on two and then leaving one without any, sweep of liquidity or break to the upside. Usually sweep of liquidity. All right, so we've had this this morning. So what are we looking at for this morning? This zone is looking really, really interesting. But I want to believe that market is going to clear all of this. I want to strongly believe that market is going to clear all of these zones, right? But then we've seen this move. If you miss out on this move, truly speaking, a place to enter again might be truly difficult. Let me look, but then I believe we can come up with something. All right, this is a zone here. This is a zone here, a breaker block, right? Price broke through this breaker block. Let me put it on 2 hours if it's more clearer. All right, price broke through this, in fact, this entire zone. I want to mark this entire zone. Price broke through this breaker block and then leaving us with a fair value gap, right? So I believe, and also if you measure this properly and carefully, you see that 50% of this is still within this zone, right? 50% of this entire move is still within the zone. 50% of the fair value gap is still within the zone. So this looks like a place to continue buying this market for me, right? Meaning I want to see like price movement to the downside, and then we'll see that continuation again for price to continue moving, right? Something like this to the zone and then continue moving, right? And of course, my first entry will be here. Usually when I see continuation moves like this, I want to go to lower time frame so I can have a more refined SL. All right, a more refined SL, something around here, and then something like this. Another one is to 2.5 again from today's trade. So this is what I'll be looking out for on today on Dow Jones. That's US 30. And with that, let's move quickly to the next analysis, which is for the US 100. All right, on the US 100, also on the daily time frame, we are very much bullish. Interesting. we are very, very much bullish. You can see the bullishness. It is really, really so powerful, right? It's really powerful. All the retracement we're expecting, pricing retrace because again, you already know, because of the fundamental that came out yesterday or the day before, right? Then so that push to the upside, right? While the market is very bullish on the daily time frame, what can we do on the 4-hour time frame or lower time frame to take trade? Okay, all right. This is looking like a good place for price to come back, but I'm not sure. Price most likely will not come back again because of the fundamental we have, right? This could have been a very good place for liquidity sweep and market structure type of entry, but then price coming to this zone again is almost not feasible for now, right? Probably we'll see that retracement very soon, but then not immediately now, all right? So on the 1-hour time frame, what happened? The 1-hour time frame, what happened? What happened? On the 1-hour time frame for the setup we had yesterday, look at this. Look at this. Price did not give us that sweep. This was the sweep that was supposed to, clear all of this. We didn't see that sweep happen on US 100, right? And that's one reason, again, I was saying that usually you should learn to, align your charts side by side, 3 of them on your MT4 or MT5, so that you can see which one gives you the sweep, right? On US 30, you have a sweep clearly here. 2 o'clock, price swept through this low and then broke structure to the upside. US 100, the same 2, right? The same 2 p.m. Look at what price did. Tapped on the other block and then just kept moving. Not even other block, on the fair value gap and kept moving, right? So for this, we wouldn't have even taken this trade because there's no setup here, clearly. Anything concerning market structure and liquidity sweep, there was no clear setup. Even box pattern, it wasn't clear on this zone, on this pair, right? While we have it. And then look at it, price eventually still moved. All of them still actually eventually rallied. But then for clear setup for us would have been US 30, right? And then you just use this one for confirmation's sake and all of that. All right. So looking at this morning, what are we looking at? Is there something special I'm seeing on this chart for price to come and retrace? Because there was no sweep of structure, right? There was no sweep of structure, except if you want to consider this a sweep of structure, which is not looking as though it is, but then okay, it's not looking as though it's a proper sweep of structure, right? Because it's a sweep of structure has to be like this. Has to be like this, sorry. And then move, right? This is, look at this, very clear. What we have here might be considered in a way, but then really not that clear. It's not as clear as what we had on US 30. On US 30, look at what we had on US 30. That was on Tuesday. Then eventually we took the trade on Wednesday, tapped into this and then moved, right? So, but for this morning, I want to also consider this. Let's just consider this for the sake of it. And then instead of looking at price, when price come, price tapping into this and then putting a pending order, we want to just wait for lower time frame entry. Yeah, right? We want to wait for lower time frame entry. Everything that's happened on this time frame, we want to wait for it to happen also on the lower time frame. With that, we can be more confident to actually start taking this market. So by the time price eventually, for any reason, I want to believe we won't see that drop even up to this zone. But then price coming back into this zone, then we should go to 5 minutes, 3 minutes, and then wait for the re-entry of this, right? All of this happening on the M5 or M3. Then we can now, start taking trades with that or engage the market using that, right? Let me draw it properly. Want to see something like this happen on M5, break, and then come back and then start moving, right? Something like this happening on M5 or M3, that will give us more robust, entry and also refine entry, right? With more confidence in this market. All right, that being said, let's move again to our S&P 500, which is the last one for today. Also on S&P 500, like I mentioned, usually one of the pair is going to sweep liquidity. It's called smart money divergent. For those that trade ICT or you're familiar with it, and if you're not even familiar with it, by the time we're done, you can just search what is smart money divergent. Usually you see that on GU and EU, where GU is going to sweep its own previous Asian high or Asian low, and then GU will not do that, right? And then eventually they will all move in the same direction, right? So, but for this case, we have US 13 as 100 and also S&P 500. Usually by the time you line all of them up side by side, right? You arrange them side by side, you see that happens almost every day, right? Smart money divergence, where you see a sweep, and that was what happened yesterday. You see a sweep on US 30, and you won't see it on US 100, you see it on S&P 500. Sometimes you see the sweep on two pairs, one will be missing. Other times it's just on one pair and the two of them will be missing. In this case, we had the sweep on US 30 alone, while S&P 500 and also NASDAQ, that's US 100, didn't have its own, right? So this morning, unlike US 100 setup that was giving us a kind of box strategy pattern here on the 1 hour time frame, S&P 500 is not even giving that pattern. There's no that schematic is not here, right, to begin with. So for today, we just put it by side and then just be watching it for the sake of correlated pair and seeing how it's working, right? Because we don't have any box pattern here playing out at all for now, right? Let's put it on the daily time frame, and we don't have anything like that happening for now. And for that reason, for that singular reason, we just put it by the side and then wait for more price action to form, which we would now probably New York session this afternoon or tomorrow. By the time we've seen multiple candle formation, that would help us to make more informed decision. But as for this morning, this London session, I'm not seeing anything as regards to intraday kind of play on S&P 500, right? Because if you had want to enter this, it's not a clear-cut box pattern that we are used to, taking trades with, right? And even if we go on the lower time frame, say 30-minute time frame, it's still not really obvious. It's still not expensive. But one thing about the chart is, by the time you keep looking, you will see that which you want to see, right? But is it as obvious as what you wanted to see in the first place? No, right? So on 30 minutes, this is looking like a box pattern, but by the time I move to H1, H4, and H2, is not giving that schematic. So for me, I don't want to force the trade, right? Instead of forcing the trade, let me just work with what we have on the two pairs, US 30 and also NAS 100, right? Because with those ones, there are more clear opportunities for us, and it is better, right? All right, thank you so much for attending this morning's session. I believe it has been helpful. Let me know in the chat box if you found this session helpful. Ayuba, Easy, Kelly, oh, interesting, Mr. Kelly, Lewi, Mangot, been a while, and Moyosuri Olua, Petru, Stanley, Toby, user. Was this session helpful? Let me know in the chat box so that we'll resume again by 2 in the afternoon, that New York session. Interestingly, today we might not be having the commodities aspect, right? We'll be postponing the commodity, analysis till next week, right? Till next week, we'll be postponing it. I'm waiting for a comment in the chat box. You guys are very helpful, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for the feedback. We'll meet again by 2:30, not 2:30. Beg your pardon. 2 in the afternoon, right? Exactly 2. Thank you so much for all your comments and for those joining, right? Meet again. Until next time, cheers and God bless. I wish you all a profitable trading.